You know that feeling, right? When you just know something, but you can't for the life of you explain why? Well, it turns out that some of our biggest, most important decisions don't come from months of careful thought. Nope. They happen in the blink of an eye. So let's dive into this amazing world of snap judgments, all based on Malcolm Gladwell's fascinating book, Blink. And our journey starts with a real head-scratcher. It's a mystery that pits months of hard scientific data against a single, powerful gut feeling. It's all about a statue that, to a handful of experts, just felt wrong. So, picture this. It's 1983, and the J. Paul Getty Museum in California gets a call about this incredible piece. It's a kouros, a sculpture of a young man from ancient Greece. This thing was supposed to be a spectacular find, and at first glance, all the evidence seemed to back that up. I mean, look at the specs. Everything checked out. The museum spent 14 months investigating. They had geologists analyze the marble. All the paperwork looked legit. On paper, this was the real deal, a priceless artifact from the 6th century BC. Here's where it gets weird. Despite all that proof, one art historian takes one look at it, and his first thought is just one word: fresh. Another expert said she felt this way of intuitive repulsion. They couldn't point to a single thing wrong with it, but in an instant, their gut was screaming that the statue was a fake. So what on earth was going on here? That feeling, that instant knowing, it comes from a really powerful, hidden part of our brain. This is the engine that's running the show behind our snap judgments, and Gladwell has a name for it: the adaptive unconscious. Think about it like this. Right now, you're consciously thinking about what I'm saying, but behind the scenes, your adaptive unconscious is processing thousands of other things: the light in the room, background noises, you name it. It's basically a survival tool, built to make super fast, efficient decisions. So how does this amazing internal computer work so quickly? Well, it uses a technique called thin slicing. This is our brain's wild ability to take a super thin slice of an experience, like a quick glance, a person's tone of voice, and find a much bigger, meaningful pattern in it. And let me tell you, when this thing works, it's not just fast, it is incredibly accurate. Honestly, sometimes it's so good it feels like a genuine superpower. Okay, check this out. There's this psychologist, John Gottman, who ran something called the Love Lab. He'd bring in married couples and just watch them have a conversation for a few minutes. He wasn't really listening to what they were saying. He was focused on how they were saying it. And get this, by thin slicing just those few minutes, looking at tiny facial expressions, the tone of their voices, Gottman could predict with over 90% accuracy whether that couple would still be together in 15 years. That is just wow. That's the power of thin slicing right there. Here's another crazy example for you. The famous tennis coach Vic Braden had this almost spooky ability. He could tell you with near perfect accuracy when a pro tennis player was about to hit a double fault, before the racket even swung. But here's the kicker. When people asked Braden, "How do you do that? What's the secret?" he couldn't tell them. He had no idea. His adaptive unconscious had picked up on a pattern so small, so subtle, that his conscious brain couldn't even describe it. He just knew. And this really sums up Gladwell's whole idea, right? That our quick, intuitive thoughts can be just as valuable as our slow, deliberate ones. And believe me, this is a very, very big but. That internal computer of ours is not flawless. It can get corrupted. Because that same amazing machine that gives us those brilliant aha moments can also be shaped by our biases, our prejudices, and all the stereotypes we've absorbed. The very experiences that make us smart can also, sometimes, lead our instincts to betray us in the worst way. A lot of this comes down to a psychological effect called priming. Priming is basically when some subtle little cue in our environment, something we might not even notice, triggers an idea in our mind, and that idea then changes how we act. And unfortunately, those triggered ideas can be tied to some really harmful stereotypes. And this can lead to absolute devastation. In 1999, 4 police officers saw a man named Amadou Diallo on his own doorstep. He sort of matched a very general description of a wanted suspect. In a terrifyingly fast series of events, all driven by snap judgments made under extreme stress, the officers opened fire. No gun was ever found. He was unarmed. It's just a tragic, heartbreaking example of how our internal computers, when primed by stereotypes and fear, can lead to catastrophic failure. So where does that leave us? If our snap judgments can be both brilliant and dangerously biased, what are we supposed to do? Should we just ignore our gut feelings altogether? Gladwell says no. The answer isn't to ignore them, it's to manage them. So the idea isn't to just throw our instincts out the window, but we can't blindly trust them either. The real goal is to get better at noticing these unconscious thoughts, to become aware of them, and to ask ourselves, hey, is this snap judgment coming from real insights, or could it be coming from a prejudice? See, it's not about stuffing more and more facts into our conscious brain. It's about understanding the hidden machinery that shapes those first impressions. We have to get to know that powerful computer inside our own heads. And this ties directly into a skill we hear a lot about, emotional intelligence. Think about great leaders. They use their emotional intelligence to be aware of their own snap judgments. They understand how things like priming might affect their team, and they know when not to rely on just thin slicing for a big decision. So, in the end, the message here is actually pretty empowering. We can't turn off that instant judgment machine in our brains, but what we can do is learn to pause, to question that first impression, and to take charge of those critical first 2 seconds. And that really just leaves us with one last thing to think about, that gut reaction you have to a new person, a new idea, a stressful moment. If you could really truly take charge of that moment, that blink of an eye, what would you do differently?